Hello, Mado. It is great to hear you. A little technical issues did come into the picture, but now we did seemingly manage to find everything and work everything out. So I would have a few questions to you from our readers. And apart from that, I thought it would be a good idea if you could maybe start with a brief introduction about yourself for those who don't know you or haven't seen you yet.
Sure. My name is Mado. I actually don't have a family name anymore because this has been solved. I've abandoned this idea of the family herd. So my name is just 4 letters. And as far as my involvement with Perszonokrácia, I've taken my first course with Guy in 2004. So that was, 8-9 years ago. And the first hour I heard her, I knew this was it. My whole life changed. And I started Perszonokrácia with a vengeance, basically. I knew that I had found what I'd been looking for all my life. And I've been studying with Guy and taking 16 10-day courses and writing with her the series of booklets called Perszonokrácia booklets. And basically, my whole life is that now. I cannot see any other solution to humanity's present position. And we can talk about that if you want in details. That's it.
That sounds very good. Thank you very much. I hope if anybody is interested in anything else, they will let us know. Now I would like to read out to you a few of our questions anonymously that arrived from our readers. And it would be great if you could provide a short idea or thoughts that come up in you relating to the topic. Okay. So the first question I would like to read out to you is from one of our readers, and it's regarding sex. She got the impression that Perszonokrácia promotes asexuality, and she had a friend that developed a few cysts in her womb, and she visited a master, and the master told her that the recipe for curing that is to have sex 3 times a week. And she was also told that if she can exchange that for creativity, that can also help, but that person seemingly cannot have sex and doesn't have a musician or artistic talent. What can such a person do? What do you think about the topic, or at least on the master's idea on how to solve such a problem?
Okay, well, his answer is very typical of what has been promoted through psychology, through the studies of Freud, of Jung, and people like William Reich, for example. And the way I see it, it's always a question of identity. If I remain as a human animal, the basic animal program of all animal species and even plant species is the reproduction of the species. You want to perpetuate the species. So as long as I identify myself to an animal, the sex program is paramount. It's actually even more important for a species to ensure its survival than the survival of an individual. So basically, the sex urge is the most basic urge in animals and plants. So if I identify to an animal, whether it's an intelligent animal called Homo sapiens, I'm still identifying to the animal part of myself. And in that case, I would say yes, that your specialist is right about encouraging the person to have more sex in order to be healthier. Okay, trying to push sex aside, asceticism does not work. If you put a lid on a need, it's very difficult. Eventually, it's going to surge somewhere. And if the lid is very tight, the surge will end up eventually as an illness. So having sex often, of course, will prevent this, as long as I remain an animal. If I'm an intelligent animal like a human being is, I can transform this sex need into creativity. But I'm still an animal, you see. What Perszonokrácia encourages people to do is to switch and actually remember who they really are. I'm actually not an animal. I'm a soul in an animal body, a divine soul, an eidesic soul. And to unite with my soul, I have to let go of animality and totally surrender to my soul. Now, the soul part of me is immortal. And to transform the body and make it immortal like its soul, it has to let go of the animal program. So basically, your friends, when she was meeting that person who recommended sex, as long as she wants to remain an animal, that will be a great way of healing herself, of healing her fibroids. But if she wants to jump out of animality, she will have to eventually let go of sex. It's one or the other. Either I remain an animal or I transform myself into something else. That's it.
Thank you very much. I believe this will be very interesting. The next question is on a completely different topic. It's since the question is anonymous, I won't say it who it is, but you have met this person. He was on one of your courses, and we also met. And
Right.
the question is that he sees a lot of groupings forming. Like there is a grouping for unconditional base income. I don't know if you know about that you get a certain amount of money.
Yes, basic income. Yes.
And a few others, but his main question is this basic income formation. Do you believe that these formations have any reality to sustain themselves?
Well, the basic income idea is something that is prevalent all around the world right now. Basically, and I'm not going to go into the financial details of why this happened and where it's going. I'm just going to go back to basics again. It's always a problem of identity. As long as I believe that I'm a sheep, a herd animal, and that I need a shepherd to take care of myself, I'll be always looking for government or some kind of higher entity of some type to save me. Okay? And since times are hard right now, and it's been planned that way through the elite and the New World Order, as a lot of people are getting a hard time having enough money to survive, I'm hoping that the government will give me just basic income, just enough for me to survive, because I believe that I cannot make myself rich enough, or I cannot create my own abundance. So I wait for the government to do it for me. And as long as I believe this, as long as I remain with that idea that I need the government to give me money because I can't make it myself, and I don't even really need money. Actually, money is just a tool of exchange. We can use all kinds of other ways of creating abundance. The game or the shushka in Hungary is one of them. But as long as I believe that I need someone higher than me to help me survive, I'm caught. I'm caught as an animal, an intelligent animal, waiting for the shepherd to feed me and take care of me. And this is a primary mistake. And it's always a mistake of identity again. I don't really want to admit and believe in myself and admit that I'm a divine, eidesic soul in a human body. Because if I switch this around and I say, hey, the divine being, the supreme being is inside of me, then I don't need a government to give me basic income. I can create my own. And I have been doing that for years, and I'm not the only one. Guy and a lot of people around us have been creating their own money, their own abundance, without using basic income and actually working totally outside of the system. So we know this is possible. But it only is possible if I believe in who I really am. That's it.
Perfect. Thank you very much. The other questions we would have are a bit personal regarding you. That what steps did you make on the roads of Perszonokrácia that you would like to highlight or pinpoint or share with us? And more excitingly, what are you planning to do in the future or in such very exciting times, so to say?
Okay. All right. So what are my steps? Well, I've done a lot of things that I don't know if your readers have read the first Perszonokrácia booklet. Let me get it out for you. Here it is, the orange one. It talks about evolution. And that one at the end, Guy and myself wrote a list of we call them 3 diving boards. One is a 1 meter diving board, which means if I want to dive into a swimming pool, when I start, I use a 1 meter diving board. And when I get a little bit tougher and I know how to dive well, I go to a 3 meter diving board, and eventually I can go to the 5 meter one. So we've written examples of what we can do in everyday life to actually act as the divine beings we are. And I've gone through the list, basically, one after the other, and I don't have it in front of me in English right now. It's in Magyar, and I have a hard time reading Magyar. But I can tell you basic things that I've started with 9 years ago when I met with Guy. And the list wasn't out yet. I started doing very basic things. For example, I told myself, well, if I'm a divine being, then I'm not my mother's child anymore. We are just 2 souls, my mother and myself, on the same road towards immortality. It's just that we don't remember. So as soon as I realized who I was, I just told my mom, well, I can't call you mom anymore. I'd like to be friends with you instead, and I'd like us to leave our hierarchical mode of functioning where the mother is higher and the daughter is smaller, you know. So I started calling her Carmen instead of calling her Mum. What else did I do? Well, I asked my 3 children, to call me Mado instead of Mum. I did things, for example, like I stopped working as a high school teacher because I just couldn't bear telling lies to kids anymore. I was a biology teacher for many years and a math teacher, and as a biology teacher, I couldn't even teach the dangers of vaccinations, for example. I couldn't teach how the human body really worked. So I quit my job, and I started working in other jobs where I could work totally outside of the system. I closed my bank account. I drive without a driving permit. I don't wear my seatbelt when I'm in a car. I try to say the truth all the time. Now, that might sound pretty petty, but it's an enormous change. When I don't agree with something, I say it. When someone asks me something, I say what I really feel. And it sometimes is scary to do things like that. What else have I done? My God. My Idessa instead of my God. So many things. For example, I stopped wearing clothes that make me look like a desirable woman anymore. I actually stopped behaving as a woman. That is a tough one. Zach, it's probably the toughest thing I've ever done is stop behaving as a female. Why would I do that? Because I know that the next step is an asexual being, a being without breasts or without a vulva or without a penis. That is the next step. And in order to create it, I have to start behaving as such. So stopping being a woman or acting as one is still an ongoing process. It's very difficult. I can see that the clothes I wear, the moves I make, the hairdo, everything I do basically has been based on what women should do or should not do. And I know some men who have been trying to do that too on their own, and it's on their side. It's very difficult to get out of the gender role. And I guess a whole bunch of other things I've done too, but they don't come to mind now. I guess they might come to mind later. I guess that answers the question.
Yes, it does. And please share on your plans and what are you planning to do
in the coming years. Good question. Well, I've been working hard on family right now. I've realized when Guy and myself wrote the booklet on family a few months ago, it just came out in French a few months ago, we both realized how huge the family and couple and gender roles were. It's much easier to let go of a bank account, for example, than to let go of a brother. Okay? Mind you, it doesn't mean I will not see my brother anymore, but it will become a friend, and I won't have to see him out of being forced to, just to be afraid of losing him. Okay? So basically the family thing is what I'm working on right now. The only thing I have left as far as citizenship is my passport, and everything else I've let go of. The health card, any type of privilege that I used to get from the government, I have let go. The only thing that's left is the passport right now. So I'm working on bigger issues. And I guess the gender and family thing is the biggest. Actually, I should say something too. I've been reading a lot because Guy and myself are writing the booklet on society right now, and I'm doing a lot of research on chemtrails, on Planet X or Nibiru, if you know that subject.
Yeah.
And they're huge subjects, and it's now looking at chemtrails in the sky. And I've known about chemtrails for at least 13, 14 years now, but I hadn't realized the importance of chemtrails and all the details related to it. And walking this morning, I walk every morning, and walking this morning and looking at all the chemtrails over my head, it was important for me to remember who I was, because it's the more I know and the more I read, the scarier it gets to see all the programs that are surrounding us that the elite has organized in order to change our biology and make us into genetically modified hybrids through chemtrails, through GMOs and everything else. So it's the more I discover, the more I see that I have hidden fears inside my body that I have to keep dealing with day after day. So I've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah. And what can you do at that point? This is a question that we get very often. I read a Perszonokrácia's booklet, I get to know a lot of information, but it scares the hell out of me. Why would I want that? Why would I want to read another book to be even more scared? How do you get over that into transforming life, into all that infinite love that you also talk about? How does this come together, the fear and the love and the life, the daily life?
Okay, that is a very good question. A lot of people say that, I don't want to read booklets and I don't want to listen to your conferences because you always talk about negative things and you make me afraid. And what I answer is, I cannot make you afraid. You carry fear inside of you, and all I do is push a button to show you that it's there. So basically, reading booklets or listening to conferences or listening to this talk right now, if it makes you afraid, it's because fear is in you. Why would people want to find out scary things? Well, because somewhere inside, there's this truth inside of me that says, something inside of me is burning to change. Something inside of me knows that I've come here for a reason. And facing the truth, facing what is going on in the world right now, is the only way to change. If I keep my head buried in the sand like an ostrich, nothing will ever change. I'll just die unconscious, and that's it. So I know that I've been reading about scary things ever since, when I was 15 years old, I started reading about extraterrestrials and the control of information. And ever since I was 15, I've known there were a lot of scary things in the world. And they were scary because I had the feeling I could not control them. It made me feel powerless and discouraged. And with time, I've learned that the more I know, the more powerful I become, because I know what I can do. Whenever I find out something scary, for example, chemtrails, whenever I find something scary, underneath this is the solution. There is always a solution. But I have to face my fear in order to find the solution that hides underneath. Okay? And most people are not ready to listen to scary things. They'd rather avoid being afraid and bury their head in the sand again. But some people, and I'm one of them, and I'm sure you are too, we cannot hide our head in the sand. we know there's something big coming. And we know that there is something growing inside of us that we cannot ignore anymore. And it's that inner knowing that keeps us going, even if it's fearful. That's it.
All right. And what is the solution to chemtrails? This is also something we get very often.
The solution to chemtrails is the same as the solution for Planet X or Nibiru. It's the same as the solution for GMOs, which are, transforming our bodies right now. It's the same with the financial crisis, the global financial crisis that is about to fall on our heads any day now. The solution is always the same. We have created right now a total chaos across the planet. It's a global chaos that we are now facing. We're in the middle of it. We've started the global chaos. We just don't see it yet. And we have created this. Human beings have created that because it is time for us to leave humanity and go to the next step. Okay? So the only solution, let's say for chemtrails, chemtrails are full of fibers that go inside our body and change our DNA. We're actually being transformed into hybrids right now through chemtrails. And that's only one thing that chemtrails do. Another thing they do, for example, is that they're filled with metals, aluminum, strontium, barium, etc. And those metals go in the whole environment, and they eventually end up in our bodies. We breathe them, we swallow them, we eat them. So our bodies are filled with metals right now. So what does that do? Well, metals are conductors. So all the electromagnetic waves and the scalar waves that are surrounding us right now, it's much easier for us to be affected by them with all the metal in our bodies right now. So you see, there's no way out. There's no more place to hide, which is perfect because this is what I have created in order for me to see that the only solution is to remember who I am. And the God or the divine being or the supreme authority is not outside of me. It is everywhere inside matter, so it's inside my body. And the only way out of this global, huge, humongous mess is to remember who I am. And how do I remember who I am? Well, I have to act the role. I have to act the way that I'm meant to act. I cannot pretend to be divine or eidesic and continue acting like a scared sheep. Okay? So the only solution is to start acting like the eidesic, divine, supreme being that I am. It's the only solution.
Perfect. Thank you. My last question would be that we heard that because you told us earlier, and it's a completely different topic than what we have been talking till now, is that the works of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother were of great effect to you and inspired to you. And please tell us why, because when I open a book by Sri Aurobindo or by Mother, it's very difficult and very hard to read. And what did it give you? What can I see in front of my eyes that will make it worth it for me to struggle through all of these very, very hard pages? Because there's no light Satprem book or no light Aurobindo book. It's like almost a 1 page a day book, and he wrote 1,000-page books. So it's quite a long read. What did it give you that you could pinpoint the most?
Let me see. I've been reading books my whole life, and spiritual books for the past, I don't know how many decades. And whenever I finally touched Aurobindo's books, and I found out about Aurobindo on my first course with Guy. What happened is many years ago when Guy was talking about the next being, the eidesic being, someone was taking her course, and that man said, "Oh, from what I understand, your eidesic being is the same as Aurobindo's supramental being." But Guy had never read Aurobindo. She didn't know about him at all, or the Mother. She had gotten that idea or felt this solution as being the only one for her from inside out. It just came from her own internal knowing, okay? So when she found that out, she started reading Aurobindo. And whenever she would give courses, she would have a few books from Aurobindo available. So when I took her course, I just grabbed one of these books and started reading. And first of all, I was like you. I didn't understand most of what was being said. And Guy had warned me. She said, it's not the words. It's the energy in between the words. So for the first time in my life, me and my big brains, I was reading a book I could not understand. And I just told my body, listen, I'm going to read this book and it's going to be an experience. Don't worry if you don't understand. We're just going to go through this. So this is what I did. And eventually I started understanding more and more, book after book, because I have a whole collection of Aurobindo and the mother's books, and Satprem also. And now I understand so much more. Often I read a book, one of Aurobindo or the mother's book. I read it, let's say 3 times, maybe once, and then I understand a bit of it. And I go, oh my God, this feels so neat. And it's a feeling inside my body that I love, because it's as if my body understood something that my mind cannot understand. And the second time I read it, I realize that I'm understanding it differently, or sometimes I'm underlining different parts of the book. And if I read it a third time, it'll feel even more different. It's weird. It's every time I read it, something happens inside my body. And I can admit that right now I understand a lot more than I used to. And I'm even starting to give lectures right now, or small workshops where I summarize what I've learned from Aurobindo and the mother, so that I can help people that are struggling like me. But it's really an ongoing process. And the booklets are a different type of information. They give the information to the mind. But when you get into Aurobindo and the mother's book, you go into higher forms of mind, in what Aurobindo calls the higher mind, or the illumined mind, or the intuitive mind. So it's basically learning through, it becomes an experience instead of being the learning experience I was used to whenever I was reading before. I hope that answers a bit.
Yeah, that does give a lot of encouragement. Thank you. My last request, because as I said, the last question was before, is that we get, one of the most common responses we get with your booklet is that, oh, there are so many. Which one should I read? So if possible, and you have the booklets next to you, could you give a few words of impulse between the differences between the booklets, that which booklet is meant for which topic and which kind of person, or maybe even which life situation specifically?
Okay, well, let me do that. Well, first of all, Guy and myself wrote the booklets because they were based on the 10-day course that Guy has been giving for several years now. So each booklet represents one of the 10 subjects that she teaches in, or goes through, or covers in her 10-day workshop. And a lot of people buy them by intuition. For example, let's say someone has the 10 booklets, the 9 booklets, because we're finishing the 10th one. Let's say the person has 9 booklets in front of her. If she has money problems, she might jump on the green one on money. Or if she has any family problems, she might jump on the family booklet first. But they were meant to be read in a sequence, in a logical sequence. So let me just summarize what each one of them are. And I'll summarize only the 5 or I guess 6 that have been translated into Magyar. Let me know if I'm right with this. So 5. The first one here, it's 5, right?
5, yes.
The first one here is evolution. It's the orange one. And it talks about basically who human beings are. Who are we and where are we going and why are we going through this terrible ordeal that humanity is facing right now? Because basically, let's be honest, we are seeing the end of humanity. It is the end of Homo sapiens as we know it. It's not going to get better. Homo sapiens will not survive this. It's the end. But it's also the beginning of something else. And it's basically a junction. We're at a junction right now. And we've come to a point where each one of us will choose either to go left or right. Left being the next animal species that will come out of Homo sapiens. Some people call it Homo luminous or Homo evolutus or whatever else. Or we can choose the right path. It doesn't matter left or right, but the other path, which is the path towards a new, more than a new species actually, it's a new kingdom. A new kingdom because matter will be changed. Our bodies will be made of immortal matter that is very different from the matter we know. It's going to be made of, and I'm basing myself on what Aurobindóról said here, it's going to be a matter made of a material that is harder than diamonds and lighter than air. Translucent or actually luminous from inside. And this matter will be immortal. And we will be omniscient and omnipotent and etc. So we have, in that booklet about evolution, we explain this. The second booklet is called Authority. It's a yellow one, this one here. And it talks about the internal functioning of human beings. Because basically, we are a soul in a body. And whenever we hear a voice inside ourselves that says, okay, you should do this, or you should do that, or you should call your mother, or you should go to work full time because you're going to have a good, stable job, all these things that we hear inside ourselves, most of the time is ego talking to us. It's not soul. So in this book, in this booklet, what we do is we try to help people understand what is ego, what is soul, how to make the difference between both, and how to realize, for example, most people think that when they hear two voices, one voice saying, well, you should go left, and the other voice says you should go right, we think that one is the soul and one is ego. But actually, most of the time when we're hearing voices like that inside of ourselves, it's two different egotic or egoistic personalities talking to each other. Okay? And the soul does not talk with words. It talks in a different way. And in that booklet, we explain how to contact the soul, how to know if it's the soul talking or saying something, and how to clean up inside, how to get to a point where we can start dissolving the various egoistic personalities. So that's booklet number 2. Booklet number 3 is this one. It's a purple one. And it's called Religion, but we also talk about, we talk about religions, S with an S, the basic ones. We talk about sex, orders, about secret societies, the subtle worlds, different types of spirituality, and any type of approach that helps us understand how the subtle worlds work. Okay? So what we do in here is we try to help people see the difference between spirituality, religion, and what we call eidacity. Eidacity being knowing who I really am, knowing that the supreme authority is internal, and how to act according to that. So that's religion. We talk a lot about subtle worlds, actually, because a lot of people, the problem we've had in society is in most Occidental countries anyways, and most modern countries, there has been, from the elite, a very precise agenda to demolish spirituality of any type and to make us believe that the world is made of concrete matter. We have become followers of a religion called atheistic materialism. We've become adepts of materialism. And whenever we hear something or we see something mysterious or something that is related to subtle worlds, we automatically think this is either non-existent or it's delusional, or we think that subtle worlds are always nice. Whenever we hear a voice, it's an angel voice. Whenever we do channeling, we channel nice entities. We don't realize that there are demonic entities that are there, that are extremely knowledgeable and extremely good at lying. And we believe that subtle worlds are there at our service, and everything we learn from them is something that is there to help us. So we're trying to clean up the ideas we've learned about subtle worlds in that one. The next one is politics. It's the blue one. And that one, well, we tell people to read it with a barfing bag because most people don't realize how politics really work. And by explaining one page after the next, how politics really work and how politicians are totally controlled. They're puppets in the hands of the elite, and who the elite are, or the groups of elite, because we can't say precise names. And once people realize that everything has always been set up from the beginning, people get discouraged a little bit. They find this booklet pretty heavy when, especially people that still believe that they're going to be able to change the government for a better one. And that voting red if the government has been blue before, or voting green or purple will change the things around them. And actually, it always changes the surface and never really change. It's always the same people controlling behind the scene. So that one is about politics. And I think did you translate the one about law yet? The
Yes.
gray one? Okay,
Yes.
the gray one. So the gray one is good color too. It's about law, and it explains that basically, if you are an eidesic being, and if you really believe in who you really are, no law can hold true anymore. Neither the laws that have been used by humanity for thousands of years. Either they are physical laws, biological laws, the laws of the earth, or natural law it's called, or all maritime law, or corporative law. All the laws that we're surrounded with right now have all been used to help us evolve. But right now we're at a point where we have to get out of animality and get out of all the artificial laws that have been created in order for us to help evolve. Okay? We're getting out of evolution right now. We're getting into a stage of transformation. Evolution has been an ongoing, slow process of thousands and actually millions of years. And the laws that we have created as eidesic beings, those laws have helped us along all the way. But now it's time for us to understand how laws work and understand that the time to let go of all laws has come. Okay? So basically, it's not only about the law that we know about. You should do this and you should do that, and you should wear your seatbelt when you're driving a car, and thou shalt not steal. All this has been helping us along, but it's time to get out of that right now. And I think, Zach, that you have translated the health booklet too, the red one. Yeah. So this one is the first one Guy and myself wrote, and it's a soft cover one. It's different from the other ones. It was the first one we wrote because Guy had been quite well known in Quebec, or actually worldwide, for her first book called The Medical Mafia. And The Medical Mafia was a synthesis of the medical system across the world. And Guy had been a very well-known and proficient doctor for 25 years. She had medical clinics in Quebec, Ontario, which are two Canadian provinces. She had clinics in Florida. She studied medicine also in Canada, but also in France. So she knew 4 different types of medical systems, and she realized they all work the same way. She wrote The Medical Mafia as a way of showing people how the medical world or the system works worldwide. But people told her, yeah, but you never gave us the solution. Now that we don't want to go see the doctor anymore because we understand that the the medical system doesn't serve the patient, it serves the medical system itself and those who control it. Now that we know it doesn't serve us, what's left? What should we do? So she was, when we wrote the booklet, she decided to start with this booklet, the one on health, to offer people a solution to health. And in that booklet, if you can see the middle one here, the middle, I don't know if you can see it on the, here goes,
yes.
that picture is, it's a great one actually. It's a brilliant way of explaining how the biological system of human beings, how the body itself, the physical body works. And she was using Hammer's German New Medicine as a synthesis of how the human body works. And then she went further. She said, how can we find out what the conflicts are that cause the illnesses? How can we find out the needs that are there to fulfill the conflicts or related to the conflicts? Because a conflict arises when I'm afraid I won't be able to fulfill a need anymore. And underneath each of those needs is the fear. So the only way to heal a disease for real is to heal the fear. And how do I heal a fear? By doing what I'm afraid of doing. So it sounds pretty simplistic, but it's an extremely potent way of dealing with illness. And I know it works because myself and many of the people that have been following Guy's workshops, we have been experimenting with this. And it's amazing how the body starts getting out of illness extremely quickly as we face the fears by doing what we're afraid of doing. It's not only true on paper, it's true because I've experienced it and it works. It's amazing. So I guess this is what you've translated up to now, and I think you might be on the way to translating other booklets. Let me show you the back of this one here. As you notice in the back of this, let me see here, there are 10 booklets here that are all lined up, 5 here and 5 there. I think you've translated 6 of them right now, and there are several left that are going to be coming out in Magyar pretty soon, I guess. Yes. But they're available in English right now. The booklet, let me see. The booklet After Law is the one on money. That's available in English. After Money is Education, a fantastic one. It's funny, education was, most people that I were surrounding here, friends and stuff, they were all saying, oh, well, education, we have gone through education. We don't need to worry about that. It's only people that have children that worry about that. But by reading the booklet on education, they realize that every human being on the planet right now has to worry about education and has to understand that we are who we are now because of our education in the past. And the only way to get out of the old humanity is to understand the programming we've gone through so that we're able to unprogram or deprogram the programming we've gone through ever since we were born. So that's explained in the booklet on education. And the one that just came out in French and will be coming out very soon in English about family is probably the most devastating and scary one to read because it questions the whole fabric of human society because people are based on who am I if I'm not a woman? Who am I if I'm not a man? Who am I if I'm not my mother's daughter or son or a good father, a good mother? So it completely questions the whole identity of human beings. And basically, if I'm not able to get out of family and genders, I cannot express who I really am. And I guess the one on society, the next one will be coming out in the next few months because that's the one we're working on now. And personally, it's the biggest one I've written of all the 10 of them. It is enormous because we're understanding how big the program, the elite program is, because the elite now is hurrying like crazy to stop us from transforming, to stop us from realizing who we really are. So they're putting all their energy, all their money, all their time, and all the efforts they can to slow us from evolving in consciousness and realizing that we are all-knowing, we are all-powerful. Because once we figure it out, they're doomed. The elite will just crumble like dust. I guess that's about it for booklets.
Yes, it is. Thank you very much, and it is all I have for you today. I'm very grateful that you did take the time to answer all of this, because I believe in the connection between the bridge between you and our readers, that if we can make it just a little bit more direct, a little bit more personal, then all the topics you mentioned in the booklets won't be so distant. This would be my goal or my dream about all this, is that everybody who picks up a booklet, reads them, and has this seriously well thought out question will get a chance to be answered either online or on your workshop when you come here in November.
Great. Well, I'm really happy to have this connection early on so people get to know me a little bit more before we see each other in Hungary in November.
Yes, thank you very much. And see you soon when we have the next dose of questions.
Great. Thank you very much, Zach.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.